A millionaire CEO paid a poor woman to pretend as his girlfriend, but her words at dinner stunned everyone. Thank you very much. Now let us get back to our main character. The rain fell hard over Manhattan that night, drumming against the windows of a quiet cafe near Lexington Avenue. Inside, a young woman sat by the corner table, her coat soaked, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she could barely afford. Her name was Lena Gray. 26, waitress, dreamer, and tonight, completely out of options. The diner she worked for had just closed, her final paycheck barely enough to cover her mother's medication. She stared at the raindrops running down the glass, whispering to herself, "What am I going to do now?" The door chimed. A tall man stepped in, shaking off the rain from his black trench coat. His presence changed the air. People moved instinctively to make space. His name was Ryan Cole, the 33-year-old CEO of Cole Industries, a man whose photo often appeared on Forbes but rarely in public. His gray eyes swept across the room and stopped at Lena. "Miss Gray?" he asked, his tone firm yet unreadable. She blinked, startled. "Do I know you?" Ryan placed a folder on the table. "You applied for an event assistant job at my company 2 months ago. You were not selected." He paused. "But I have another offer." Lena frowned. "An offer?" He sat across from her, rain still glistening on his shoulders. "I need someone to accompany me to several events this week. A charity dinner, a business gala, my father's retirement celebration. Someone believable." Lena hesitated. "Believable as what?" He met her Haza, "As my girlfriend." The cafe seemed to fall silent. The espresso machine hissed in the distance, the sound sharp in the pause that followed. Lena's voice trembled. "You are joking, right?" "I do not joke about contracts," Ryan replied calmly. "You will be compensated. $5,000 for 1 week. You follow my schedule, my rules, and when the week is over, we walk away as if nothing happened." She stared at him, unsure if this was real or some cruel test. "Why me? You could hire a model, an actress, anyone." He leaned back slightly, his expression cool. "Because they would act. You would not." Lena's pulse quickened. Her shoes were still damp, her stomach empty, her mother waiting at home with unpaid bills. $5,000 was more money than she had seen in months, yet something in her resisted. "I do not belong in your world, Mr. Cole." He glanced at his watch, then back at her. "No one ever does, until they do." He slid a pen toward her. "The contract is valid for 7 days starting tomorrow. You can say no." Quote. Lena looked at the folder, then at him, the kind of man who looked carved from marble and money. "And if I say yes, then you and I will walk into a dinner tomorrow night," he said, his voice low. "And everyone in that room will believe that you are the woman I chose." Outside, thunder rolled across the city. Inside, she tightened her grip on the pen. Her heart raced. Every instinct told her to walk away, but every bill waiting at home told her not to. Lena signed her name. Ryan nodded once, took the contract, and stood. "I will send a car for you at 6. As he left, Lena sat frozen, the echo of his footsteps mixing with the sound of rain. She had just agreed to become the girlfriend of a millionaire on paper, but she had no idea that 1 week later, the words she would speak at that dinner would not only shock every guest in the room, but also change both of their lives forever. The next morning, the rain had stopped, but New York was still wrapped in fog. Lena woke in her small apartment, the sound of traffic seeping through the cracked window. For a moment she thought the night before had been a dream. But the folder on her table, Ryan Cole's contract, was real. Her name, written in ink, stared back at her like a promise she could not take back. At 6 in the evening, a black sedan waited outside her building. The driver stepped out, crisp in a suit. "Miss Gray," he said, opening the door. "Mr. Cole sent me." Quote. Her hands trembled as she climbed in. The city lights blurred past. She tried to calm her breathing, whispering, "Just 1 week." When the car stopped, she looked up at a sleek glass tower that touched the clouds. The Cole Industries building gleamed under the setting Sunday inside. Marble floors reflected chandeliers like liquid gold. Employees greeted her with polite smiles that did not reach their eyes. They all looked perfect, sharp, untouchable. Ryan was waiting in his private office, standing by the window. The skyline stretched behind him, the city glittering below. He turned as she entered. "Right on time," he said simply. Lena nodded, clutching her small purse. "I almost turned around twice." His mouth curved faintly. "But you did not." He gestured toward a large wardrobe near his desk. Inside hung several evening dresses, elegant and expensive. "Choose one. Tonight is the first event." Her breath caught. "These look like they cost more than my rent." "They probably do," he said, completely serious. "The charity dinner starts at 7:30. You will walk in beside me, smile when spoken to, and let me handle the rest." Lena hesitated at the mirror. The woman staring back at her was unrecognizable once she put on the navy dress and heels that actually fit. Ryan's assistant pinned her hair, adjusted a silver necklace, and stepped back. "You will do fine," she said softly. When Ryan saw her, he paused for half a second, just enough for Lena to notice. Then his expression hardened again. "Shall we?" They entered the ballroom together. The flash of cameras burst like lightning. Reporters turned, whispering. Ryan Cole had never been seen with anyone. Now he walked in with a mystery woman. Lena smiled nervously, her arm hooked around his. "Everyone is staring." "That is the point," Ryan murmured under his breath. Dinner was served under a crystal chandelier. Around the table sat investors, politicians, and socialites. The conversation flowed like wine, full of careful compliments and hidden agendas. Lena said little, afraid to ruin the illusion. A man at the far end of the table leaned forward. "So, Miss Gray," he said, his tone edged with curiosity. "How did you two meet?" Lena froze. Ryan's gaze flicked toward her, a silent test. She took a slow breath. "At a coffee shop," she said, forcing a small laugh. "He ordered black coffee. I spilled mine. He offered to buy another. It was unexpected." The table chuckled politely. Ryan looked at her again, this time with something like amusement. "That is exactly how it happened," he said smoothly, saving her from further questions. But then another guest, a woman in diamonds, smiled thinly. "You must find it difficult, dating someone like Ryan. The pressure, the attention, the money." Lena straightened. "Money does not intimidate me. It only reveals who people really are." "What?" The laughter around the table faded. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Ryan's eyes stayed on her, unreadable. Then, to everyone's surprise, he nodded. "Well said." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. As the guests mingled, Lena slipped toward the balcony for a breath of air. The city shimmered below, alive and distant. She could feel the weight of stairs even out there, like she was an actress in a play she never auditioned for. Ryan joined her quietly. The night breeze caught his tie, his expression softer now. "You handled yourself better than I expected. I almost fainted," she admitted, half laughing. "You did not tell me it would feel like walking on stage." "It is always a stage," he replied. "Some people just forget they are acting." She turned to him. "And what about you, Mr. Cole? Are you acting too?" His eyes met hers. "Always." For a moment, neither spoke. The city buzzed below, the sound of taxis and laughter carried up from the streets. Then Ryan looked away. "The car will take you home. Tomorrow we start early. I will have a stylist prepare you for the gala." Lena nodded slowly, unsure if she should thank him or question everything. As she rode down the elevator, she caught her reflection in the mirrored wall, a girl, dressed like someone else, stepping into a story that did not belong to her. But she did not know that the part she was playing was already starting to rewrite the script of Ryan Cole's perfect empty life. The next morning, the sun poured through the tall windows of Ryan's penthouse. Lena stood in the living room, surrounded by racks of clothes, makeup cases, and two stylists moving around her like a silent storm. The transformation had become part of the routine: hair, dress, smile, but what she could not get used to was how none of it felt like her. Ryan appeared from the hallway, perfectly composed in a charcoal suit, phone in hand. "We leave in 20 minutes, he said. "The gala tonight will be more formal than last night. Remember the rules." Lena folded her arms. "Smile when spoken to, Agree when unsure, and do not mention where I actually work? He looked up at her. That would be a good start. His assistant approached with a clipboard. Mr. Cole, the press will expect a statement about the new acquisition. Do you want Miss Gray beside you when you speak? Ryan's eyes lingered on Lena for a moment. Yes, it will look authentic. Lena exhaled quietly. Authentic. The word echoed in her mind like a joke. By evening, they arrived at the Grand Metropolitan Hotel. The ballroom glowed with golden light, violins playing softly under the murmur of champagne conversations. Every face there knew Ryan Cole, and none of them belonged to her world. Cameras flashed as they stepped inside, his hand resting lightly on her back. She smiled, doing her best to blend into the illusion. For the first hour, she said nothing, simply following his cues. But when a reporter stopped them for a photograph, Ryan surprised her by introducing her as if she truly were someone important. This is Lena Gray, he said calmly. She reminds me that not everything worth having comes with a price tag. The reporter laughed awkwardly, unsure if it was a joke. Lena froze, feeling the heat rise in her cheeks. Ryan guided her forward again, as if nothing had happened. When they reached the long table near the stage, Lena finally whispered, "Why did you say that?" "Because it is true," Ryan replied, his tone unreadable. "You are the only person here not pretending to be someone else." She frowned. "That is ironic, coming from the man who hired me to pretend." His lips curved slightly. Touché. Dinner began. The chandeliers sparkled, and waiters moved like dancers between the tables. A board member raised a toast to Ryan's success, and laughter rippled across the room. Lena glanced around, feeling small under the weight of elegance. Then a woman approached, tall, polished, and clearly familiar with Ryan. "Ryan," she greeted warmly, placing a hand on his arm. "It has been too long." Lena recognized the name tag, Victoria Haynes, Executive Director. Her tone carried ownership. Ryan's smile tightened. "Victoria, good to see you. And this must be—" Victoria looked at Lena, her expression polite but sharp. "Lena Gray," Ryan said. "My partner." Lena extended her hand. "It is nice to meet you." Victoria's handshake was brief, her eyes flicking over Lena's simple jewelry. "You are full of surprises, Ryan." When she left, Lena leaned closer. "Partner? It sounds better than contract," he said quietly. She almost laughed, but stopped when the lights dimmed and the host took the stage. The auction began: paintings, vacations, charity pledges. Ryan placed bids with the ease of someone who had never had to count the cost. But when the announcer mentioned a scholarship fund for underprivileged art students, Lena's attention sharpened. Ryan noticed her expression. "Do you like that cause?" "I love it," she whispered. "My mother always said art gives people a reason to keep going." "I used to paint before she got sick." He studied her face for a long moment, then raised his paddle. $100,000. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lena turned to him, stunned. "Why did you do that?" "Because you wanted to," he said simply. The applause rose, but Lena felt her chest tighten. For the first time since she met him, she saw something beneath the surface, something human. Later that night, after the gala ended, Ryan and Lena walked through the quiet lobby. The city lights shimmered against the marble floor. "You did well tonight," he said softly. "I did not trip," she replied with a small smile. "That feels like a victory." He chuckled, rare and genuine. "It is." They stepped outside. The air was cool, the city humming softly around them. For a while, neither spoke. Then Lena said, "You know, pretending is easier when I do not have to think about what happens after this week." Ryan looked at her, his expression unreadable. "And what do you think happens after?" She hesitated. "You forget me. I go back to waiting tables." He did not answer. The silence stretched, heavy, but not cold. A car pulled up to the curb. He opened the door for her. "Good night, Miss Gray." She paused before getting in. "Good night, Mr. Cole." As the car drove away, Ryan watched the taillights fade into the dark street. For the first time in years, the emptiness around him felt heavier than the success he carried. He realized that the woman who was supposed to play a part had somehow stepped beyond the script, and that unsettled him more than anything money could ever fix. The next day began with a silence Lena could feel in her bones. The city outside buzzed as usual, but inside Ryan's penthouse, everything was still. Breakfast was already set out on the long marble counter: fresh fruit, croissants, coffee, but he was nowhere to be seen. She sat down hesitantly, staring at the untouched food. Just as she reached for a cup, Ryan appeared from the hallway, adjusting his cufflinks. His expression was distant, professional again. "We have a board meeting at noon," he said. "After that, lunch with the investors. The contract requires you to attend both." Lena blinked. "Lunch with investors? I thought this was supposed to be about charity dinners and public appearances." "It was," he said, glancing at her. "Now it is about perception. Some of them believe I have become too detached. You being there softens the image." She frowned slightly. "So I am a prop." "You are an ally," he corrected, though his tone carried no warmth. At noon, the meeting began inside Coal Industries' top floor. The conference room overlooked the skyline, walls of glass stretching across the city. Lena sat beside Ryan, surrounded by men in suits who watched her with polite curiosity. The chairman, an older man with silver hair, smiled. "We are pleased to finally meet the woman who managed to make our CEO attend social events again." Lena smiled carefully. He is a difficult man to say no to. Laughter rolled across the room, but Ryan's gaze lingered on her with something unspoken. When the meeting ended, they rode the elevator down together. For a long time, neither spoke. The mirrored walls reflected their faces, two people pretending not to see what was happening between them. At lunch, the restaurant buzzed with quiet luxury. Waiters in black vests moved gracefully between tables. Ryan sat at the head, Lena beside him, playing her role with careful precision. She laughed when expected, smiled when cameras turned, and spoke just enough to seem genuine. Halfway through the meal, one of the investors asked, "Miss Gray, what do you see in Ryan Cole?" Lena nearly choked on her water. Ryan's eyebrow lifted slightly, waiting to see what she would say. She set the glass down, meeting the investor's eyes. "I see a man who works so hard to be strong that he sometimes forgets he is human. I think he just needs someone to remind him." The table fell silent. Even Ryan looked caught off guard. Then the investor chuckled, raising his glass. "Well said." When the lunch ended, Ryan remained quiet as they stepped into the car. The driver started the engine, and the city rolled by in streaks of color. Finally, he spoke. "You were not supposed to say that." Lena turned to him. "Was I wrong?" His jaw tightened. "You were honest. That can be dangerous." She smiled faintly. "Maybe honesty is what people need to see from you." That night, the penthouse felt different. The city lights painted soft gold on the floor, and Ryan stood by the window, looking out over Manhattan. Lena approached slowly, holding 2 mugs of tea. "You should take a break," she said gently. "You look exhausted." Quote. He accepted the cup without protest. "I am not used to being questioned." "Maybe people question you because they want to understand you," she said. He looked at her then, really looked past the makeup and the borrowed dress, into the woman who had walked into his life by accident. For the first time, his voice softened. "I do not think anyone ever tried." The air between them grew quiet. The city hummed below, lights flickering like stars caught in glass. "You are not as cold as you pretend to be," she said quietly. "And you are not as fragile as you look," he replied. Lena smiled, setting her cup down. "Then maybe we are both pretending." Ryan's expression shifted, something almost like warmth flickering behind his eyes. But before he could speak, his phone buzzed sharply on the table. The name flashing on the screen made his face harden. "Who is it?" she asked. "My father's attorney," he said flatly. "He wants to discuss the inheritance terms before the gala tomorrow." He slipped the phone into his pocket, the softness in his eyes gone again. "Get some rest, Lena. Tomorrow will be complicated." As he walked away, Lena stared after him, realizing she had just glimpsed the man beneath the armor, if only for a moment. And somewhere deep inside, she knew that the line between acting and feeling had already started to blur. The next evening arrived with a chill in the air and the glow of city lights stretching beyond the tall windows of Ryan's office. The gala was only an hour away. Lena stood near the mirror while a stylist adjusted the strap of her silver gown. Her reflection looked like someone who belonged in that world, elegant, poised, untouchable. But inside, her heart thudded with nerves. Ryan entered, dressed in a black tuxedo that made him look every bit the headline billionaire. "You are ready," he said simply. Lena turned. "Do you ever get tired of being perfect?" He gave a quiet laugh, rare and short. "Perfection is a performance. You learn not to notice the cracks." When the car pulled up to the hotel hosting the gala, flashes from cameras lit the entrance like lightning. Ryan stepped out first, then offered his hand to her. "Just breathe," he whispered. "And remember, tonight, you are the woman everyone wishes they could be." Come my. The ballroom was enormous, shimmering with gold and glass. A live orchestra played, and the guests turned as Ryan and Lena walked in together. Murmurs swept across the room. She could hear fragments of whispers: his father's retirement, the New Deal, the mystery girlfriend. At their table, Ryan greeted the board members and his father's associates. Lena kept her smile steady. The atmosphere was formal but charged. Across the room, she saw Victoria Haynes again, watching them with narrowed eyes. Halfway through dinner, the host took the stage to honor Ryan's father, Richard Cole, who was stepping down after 40 years. Applause filled the room as the older man, proud and sharp-eyed, raised his glass.
"Our son has built something great,"
Richard said. "But success means little if you cannot share it with someone who reminds you what matters." His gaze landed directly on Lena. The crowd turned. Ryan's hand tightened around his glass. Then, before anyone could react, Victoria stood up and walked toward the stage. "Before we celebrate," she said sweetly, "there is something the guests deserve to know." Lena felt her stomach twist. Victoria held up a tablet. "Mr. Cole's lovely companion, Miss Gray, is not who you think she is. She signed a contract to play the role of his girlfriend." Gasps rippled through the room. Cameras clicked. Ryan rose to his feet, anger flashing in his eyes. "That is enough, Victoria," she smiled coldly. "You always taught us transparency builds trust, Ryan. I am simply helping you practice it." Lena's vision blurred. The crowd murmured, their admiration turning into judgment. Ryan's father looked stunned, humiliation spreading across his face. Lena stood, voice trembling but steady. "It is true," she said clearly. "I signed the contract. But I never pretended about the way I treated him. I did not lie about who I am." The room fell silent. Her eyes met Ryan's for a long, fragile second. "You wanted a performance, Mr. Cole. But somewhere along the way, I stopped acting." Before anyone could stop her, she turned and walked out of the ballroom, the echo of her heels cutting through the music. Outside, the cold night air hit her face. She breathed hard, trying to steady the ache in her chest. For the first time, she did not feel small. She felt free. Back inside, Ryan stood frozen as whispers filled the room. His father rose slowly. "Is it true?" Ryan met his father's eyes. "Yes." "But she was never the lie, Father. I was." Richard's expression softened for the first time that night. "Then go fix it before you lose what matters." Ryan left the ballroom without another word. The cameras followed him, but he ignored them. The night air felt heavier now, the city noise distant and hollow. He scanned the sidewalk until he saw her figure standing under the streetlight, her silver dress catching the faint rain. "Lena," he called out. She turned, tears streaking her cheeks, but her eyes steady. "You do not have to explain, Ryan. I understand now. This was never real." He stepped closer. "It became real the moment you spoke the truth. You reminded me what it means to be seen, not as a name, not as a number, but as a person." She shook her head. "You cannot fix this with words." Quote, "I know," he said quietly. "Then let me try with actions." The sound of the city faded behind them as they stood in the rain. No contracts, no cameras, only two people stripped of everything but honesty. For the first time, Ryan Cole was no longer performing, and Lena Gray was no longer pretending. The rain had not stopped by morning. Gray clouds hung low over the city, and the news outlets were already replaying last night's scandal from the gala. Every headline read the same: Ryan Cole's fake girlfriend exposed. The images of Lena walking out, drenched in light and humiliation, were everywhere. In a quiet apartment across town, Lena sat by the window, her phone buzzing with messages she refused to open. Reporters camped outside her building, calling her name as if she were some spectacle to be picked apart. She turned off the phone and whispered, "It is over." Her mother's voice came from the kitchen, gentle but firm. "You told the truth, sweetheart. That is never something to be ashamed of." Lena smiled faintly. "I told the truth, and now the whole world thinks I am a liar." Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder. "People always talk, but real hearts see what words cannot." Across the city, Ryan stood in his office, staring out at the skyline. His father's words echoed in his mind, "Go fix it before you lose what matters." He had spent years building an empire of steel and glass, and in one night, a single honest woman had shown him how fragile it really was. His assistant stepped in. "The board wants a statement, sir. They are worried about investor confidence." Ryan turned, calm but resolute. "Then they will get one, but not the kind they expect." An hour later, the lobby of Cole Industries overflowed with reporters. Cameras flashed as Ryan stepped up to the podium. His tie was gone, his sleeves rolled back, the formality stripped away. "I made a mistake," he said clearly. "I hired someone to play a part in my life because I was afraid of being seen for who I really am. I thought control was strength. But last night that illusion fell apart, and I am grateful it did." The crowd murmured, confused. Ryan continued, his voice steady. "Lena Gray is not a fraud. She is the only honest person in this entire story. And if any of you are looking for someone to blame, blame me." Reporters shouted questions, but he walked off the stage, his decision already made. That afternoon, Lena returned to her shift at a small cafe downtown, the same place she used to work before everything changed. The other waitresses whispered, unsure how to approach her, but she moved with quiet resolve, determined to reclaim her life. Then the doorbell chimed. She looked up and froze. Ryan Cole stood at the entrance, rain dripping from his coat, eyes searching for her. The cafe went silent. "Ryan," she breathed. "What are you doing here?" He stepped closer, telling the truth this time. She glanced at the cameras outside the window. "You should not be here. You will only make it worse." "I do not care," he said softly. "You were right. Money reveals people, and it revealed me too. I do not want to live in a world where everything is a transaction. Not with you." Close. Lena's throat tightened. "You could have said that last night." "I was too proud," he admitted. "But pride does not keep you warm when you lose the only person who ever saw you." The rain outside blurred the world beyond the glass. For a long moment, she just looked at him, the man who had built walls of contracts and now stood without any of them. Finally, she exhaled. "You cannot undo the past." "No," he said quietly, "but maybe I can build something real from what is left." Quote. Her eyes softened, uncertain but moved. "One step at a time, Mr. Cole," he smiled faintly. "Then let us start walking." As the cafe filled again with the sound of life, Lena realized something had shifted. The story that began as a contract was slowly becoming something true, and this time, no one was pretending. Weeks passed. The noise of the scandal began to fade, replaced by newer stories that filled the headlines. But for Lena and Ryan, the quiet after the storm felt heavier than the chaos itself. They saw each other often now, no contracts, no rules, only slow steps towards something that might be real. Lena returned to painting during her days off. The small corner of her apartment became her studio, canvases stacked against the wall, colors blooming again after years of silence. Ryan stopped by once a week, always bringing coffee and staying longer than he planned. He never tried to buy her forgiveness, only to earn her trust. One afternoon, he arrived unannounced. His sleeves were rolled up, his tie gone, looking far from the man who once ruled boardrooms. "You have paint on your cheek," he said, handing her a napkin. She laughed softly. "It means I am working." He looked around at the paintings, some bright, some raw with emotion. "You are good, Lena. You should show these." She shook her head. People would not care about my art. Quote, "Then they will," he said. "Let me sponsor an exhibit for you." She hesitated. "Ryan, that sounds like charity." He met her gaze. "No, it sounds like belief." Their eyes held for a moment, long enough to make words unnecessary. But before she could answer, his phone vibrated on the table. The name flashing across the screen made his jaw tighten. Victoria Haynes. He silenced it, but Lena noticed. "She is still causing trouble?" "She is trying to," he said. "The board wants her to return as interim director. They think I am distracted." "Are you?" He smiled faintly. "Completely." Later that week, the board called a meeting to determine his position as CEO. Ryan stood before them, calm but resolute. "I know what you are thinking," he said, "but leadership is not about pretending to be flawless. It is about standing up after you fall, and I am still standing." Quote, when he walked out of that room, he no longer looked like a man afraid of losing control. He looked like someone who had finally found purpose. That evening, he met Lena at the park near her apartment. The trees were turning gold, and the wind carried the faint scent of autumn. "The board kept me," he said quietly, "but I told them I am taking a step back, for a while." Lena looked at him in surprise. "You are serious?" He nodded. "I spent years chasing power. Now I want to build something that lasts." She smiled. "Like what?" "Like this," he said, reaching for her hand. "Something real." The sun dipped behind the skyline, wrapping the city in amber light. For the first time, Ryan Cole did not feel like a CEO. He felt like a man learning how to begin again with the only woman who ever saw him for who he truly was. A month later, the gallery was filled with light, laughter, and the hum of quiet admiration. The event banner read "The Art of Lena Gray." It had been Ryan's idea, but the work was entirely hers, paintings of city streets, late nights, and faces full of hope and struggle. People walked through the room in awe, unaware that every brushstroke carried a story of survival and second chances. Lena stood near the entrance, her simple blue dress a contrast to the shimmering gowns around her. She still felt like she did not belong, but when she saw Ryan speaking with guests, pride flickered in her chest. He was no longer the cold businessman she had first met. His laughter came easily now, his posture relaxed, his eyes softer. When the crowd thinned, Ryan walked toward her, holding something small in his hand. "Your show is a success," he said, smiling. "They loved it." She smiled back. "I still cannot believe this is happening." He handed her a small box. "Then believe this instead." Inside was the same silver ring that had once been part of their fake arrangement, the prop from their contract. But now, it gleamed with new meaning. Lena's eyes filled with tears. "Ryan," he took her hand gently. "When we met, this ring meant nothing. It was just a promise on paper. But you taught me what promises are supposed to mean." The gallery fell quiet around them as he went down on one knee. "Lena Gray, will you give me the chance to build a real life with you? No contracts, no pretense, just us." She laughed through her tears. "You really know how to make a scene, Mr. Cole." "I learned from the best," he said softly. When she whispered yes, the guests erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, but for once, Ryan did not care about the attention. He slipped the ring onto her finger, the same ring that had once represented an illusion, now sealing something true. As the lights glowed warm around them, Lena rested her head against his chest and whispered, "This time it feels real." Ryan smiled. "That is because it finally is." A year later, the world looked different. The headlines that once called Ryan Cole the coldest CEO in Manhattan now spoke of his foundation for young artists and scholarships for single parents. He had traded boardrooms for community halls, luxury for purpose. And through it all, Lena had been by his side, her quiet strength shaping everything he built. Their wedding was small, just as she wanted, held in the same art gallery where her first exhibition had taken place. The walls were lined with her paintings, each one a chapter of their journey. The guests were family, close friends, and a few people who had once doubted them. As the ceremony began, the sunlight streamed through the high windows, washing everything in gold. Lena walked down the aisle in a simple ivory dress, carrying a bouquet of wildflowers. Ryan stood waiting, his eyes soft with emotion. When she reached him, he whispered, "You look like the life I never knew I needed." The officiant smiled. "We are gathered here today not to witness a contract, but a commitment." Laughter rippled gently through the room. As they exchanged vows, Lena's voice trembled. "When I met you, I thought you were just another man who lived above the clouds. But you showed me that even those who build towers can learn how to come back down to earth. You taught me that love is not about saving someone, it is about standing beside them." Ryan took her hands. "And you taught me that worth is not measured in numbers or success. It is in kindness, in truth, and in the courage to begin again." When they sealed their vows with a kiss, the room erupted in applause. The sound was warm, human, and real. Later that evening, as the guests danced under strings of lights, Lena slipped outside to the balcony. The city shimmered below, alive and endless. Ryan joined her, wrapping his jacket around her shoulders, the same gesture she remembered from their first public event together. "Do you ever think about how it all started?" she asked, smiling. He nodded. "A contract? A week? A mistake that turned into everything?" She leaned against him. "The best mistake we ever made." "Good." He laughed softly, pressing a kiss to her hair. "And the last deal I ever signed." They stood together, watching the city that had once tested them now glowing with quiet peace. For the first time, neither of them was pretending. There were no cameras, no scripts, no expectations, only two people who had found love not in perfection but in truth. As the night deepened and the lights flickered like stars across the skyline, Ryan whispered, "Here is to real promises." Lena smiled. "And to forever keeping them." The story that began as a lie ended in honesty, proving that even in a world built on power and wealth, the greatest investment will always be love.